So we were going to talk a bit today about the Recovery College class, the living with memory problems, and some of the work that we've been doing over the last year and a half.
As long as that.
It is as long as that. So it's 18 months since we first met and started this work. I was wondering, it's probably helpful if we just, for the purposes of the film, we've just reiterated who we were. So I'm Stephanie. I'm an occupational therapist.
I'm Brian T.
Excellent, thank you.
I'm Brian B.
I'm David Sears. I was a professional electronics engineer.
Yes, no, that's right. And we've worked together with a couple of other people who aren't here today.
Yeah.
So there are two other gentlemen, Steve and Tom, who weren't able to join us today, but also Sue, my nursing colleague.
Oh, yes.
And we've met, as I say, it is over a year and a half, really with the aim of putting together this workshop, which we've called Living with Memory Problems, for people who've just found out that they've got dementia. I was wondering whether it would be helpful to because obviously you all have a diagnosis of dementia, whether it would be helpful to say something about that and how you got there and how you found out that you had dementia. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you first.
That's
Brian,
all right. That's okay. I'm quite happy to lead. Well, my wife Carol obviously had suspicions, and we went to see our GP, and he talked to me, but I didn't realise at the time she'd already prompted him, and it was at his suggestion that I came to the memory clinic and met Jim.
Right.
And I think it's been very good because opportunity again to meet fellow sufferers, if you want to put it that way, and other people involved in helping them as well, which is very important.
And the finding out that you had dementia, did that come as a big shock for you?
Probably not. I mean, some aspects of it I've started to realise that make things difficult. But there were occasions when I couldn't remember various things that I was supposed to know. Nothing that was terribly important, but Carol occasionally reminded me who she was. So. But no, the family's been very supportive all along the line.
That's great. Thank you. So, yes, Brian, I was wondering if you could tell us something about your...
I think it was September in 1952.
Well, it might have been as long as that, you know.
2012.
2012.
I'd taken ill, and they thought I was having a stroke. So I was carted off to hospital and moved from one hospital to another. And had various tests, CT scan, MRI scan. With the result, they decided I hadn't had a stroke. But an outcome of that was I seemed to have lost my memory. So when I was discharged from hospital to see the GP, they thought it would be, because my memory was still very poor, that it would be an idea to refer me to the memory service. And then I had various tests over the following months, and in, I think it was June last year, I was diagnosed with early signs of dementia. Because it had gone on for so long, it wasn't really a surprise, because I knew at the end of all that process, having undergone quite a few tests, that I was either going to be diagnosed with it or not with it. And so when I was told that I had the early sign, it wasn't a shock, you know. I would prefer to say you're okay, you know, but so there we are. And they at that time was recommended to go on medication, it was found that I could tolerate the drug I was prescribed, and the dose was increased because of that, and that's the way it stayed ever since. You know, hitherto, I mean, it wasn't that I'd suddenly lost my memory. I mean, that sort of thing had been building up over the years as I got older. And so I just thought old age, a sign of old age, that largely because my contemporaries were the same, they couldn't remember things. The classic one of going upstairs and saying, what did I come up for? I'm sure we've all experienced that. But anyway, that's the story.
Thank you. And David, I seem to recall that you went to see your GP.
That's right,
Your
yes.
wife had noticed some memory problems.
Well, he on a routine visit to him, he said he thought I had dementia, so I'd never heard of it before, so I looked up in the dictionary and it said madness. I thought, well, that's me. And started off from there.
Right. Yes. So it's quite a positive example of, I think all three of you are very positive examples of living well with dementia, that it's not something that dominates all aspects of your life at all.
I'm sure that's the
I only
best way.
talk about it when I come to these meetings.
I know. We make you talk about it, don't we?
Well, my wife and I have always had a lot of fun, with it, and laughed. And so, I've done a lot of silly things, that sort of thing. And not that we made light of it, sort of thing, but I think it was our way of dealing with it, looking on the bright side if possible,
And I think from memory, that was one of the things that you wanted to pass on to people who perhaps are finding out that they've got dementia, that maybe a way of coping with it is either to put it to the back of your mind, or to take it in your stride, or to have some humour, to be able to see the funny sides of things, was something I think you've all spoken about, really.
Yeah.
Or a combination of all that.
Yes. At different times, different things will work. And I seem to recall I first met with you both with you all, the June before last. I'm trying to think what that is. So June 2013, and I met with you all with your wives to talk through this as a possible idea. Can I ask you what made you get involved in this work, or what interested you in this work at the beginning when it wasn't very clear maybe what we were hoping to do?
Well, it seemed because our wives, well, my wife is obviously involved with me, and if there's something wrong with me, she's involved. That it's going to be useful for her to find out about it as well as me, and that would be a good way of dealing with it. And when there was the opportunity to attend other meetings, we both thought it was a good idea.
So almost using it as a way of understanding more, or finding out a bit more about dementia, and for you, not just for yourself, but for your wife also.
Yes.
And I must say, since the carers side of it has taken off as regards, they've had a lot of meetings.
Yes.
In that respect, I know from Harriet's point of view, she's much more sort of involved in that. I think she felt originally that what's the point of me being involved with everything, and nothing happens on her side, or nothing was happening, I should say, on her side. Whereas it is now, of course.
Yes, and that is the challenge. And Brian, would you remember what interested you in getting involved in this work at all?
Well, I think the initial meeting that I had with Jim and others, and the tests that I'd had at the Memory Centre, and then, of course, I felt that it was very good that Carol was being invited to learn more, apart from just me as a specimen, and it's quite obvious that the ladies or the wives, partners, have benefited from those meetings, and I think that must help us actually as the chaps.
Yes, and it is a Yes. Could I ask you all what you feel you've got from doing the work that you've done with me and being involved in this work? What do you think the benefits been for you all? I don't know, David, if you have if you're able to tell me what you've enjoyed about being involved in this.
I enjoy the company. And the tea
Yes. Nice tea.
or coffee.
Yes, yes. It's been quite a social group, I think
Yes.
it's fair to say, isn't it? So it's
But we've not only, I think, well, I've certainly enjoyed the social side, as I'm sure David and Brian have, but we've also benefited, I'm sure, from the discussions and the fact that we were prepared to be open about things. And if you remember, two of our former friends were against actually telling people.
yes.
And I took the view with the support of Carol that we should tell family and friends that I was having memory problems. Not that they wouldn't have guessed, but but being open about it.
And that's one of the things that we, in terms of the content of the book, we've touched on, isn't it, about whether or not to tell other people. And I think with a lot of our discussions, what's been interesting has been that you've all had a slightly different perception on something. So that's a very good example that you've decided to be quite open with your family and friends. But certainly, as we know, Tom, who did the work with us, didn't really want to tell people.
He was very against it. Yeah.
I know Brian and David, you've told some people, but maybe not everybody. You know, there are different. You're all quite different.
I don't mention it unless people talk about it.
Yes, and that's really important. To
Well, we don't go around with a placard.
No.
Yes. I guess one of the aims of the workshop for other people is to help people gain from your experiences and the things that you've learned from experience or we've shared with each other. And I guess for me that point is that actually there's not one of the key things for me that I've taken from this work with you all is there's not just one way of dementia affecting people, and it varies both in terms of how it affects people, but how people deal with that, and what's a problem for one person may not be a problem for somebody else, and that's I think in our discussions has been quite a sort of prominent theme, really.
Yeah. Yes, I think one of the things you're told right from the start when you have the diagnosis is that there's no recovery, which is a bit sort of, in one way, shattering, but it's not at our age because we know, many of our people we know, their spouses or relatives have got dementia, and some people are in a very sad state. And so we are aware of, what it's like right at the bitter end, as you might say. And that's why that, I think, affects my attitude that, it's inevitable, but don't, take a positive view and make the most of what you've got, And how
I won't look at you. So, okay. So
I think we have benefited because of the fact that our wives have got to know one another, and they've also approaching it in a much more knowledgeable way.
Yes.
And I'm sure I have anyway. And I think possibly I'm also benefiting from medication because I think my deterioration has slowed down.
So having the active treatment has helped, but also that knowledge. And I was going to ask you the sharing of similar experiences. So you've all had quite similar experiences in terms of how the dementia might affect you. Has that been helpful to hear more about each other's experiences of the dementia?
Definitely.
Oh yes,
I used to have, when we were given a drug, weren't we, to take?
Yes, that's right.
And when I first got it, I think it was 5 milligrams or something like that. And I used to get...
the donepezil one.
I used to get...
Did you get some nightmares, I think, when you first had it, didn't you?
It was reduced by half and it's all right.
I still have quite vivid dreams every night.
Right.
But they're not nightmares.
I don't have any dreams.
No,
everybody dreams.
Yes.
But
You don't get those unpleasant ones again.
I'm always enjoying myself.
I'm so
We won't
glad.
ask.
I'm sorry to wake up.
And medication, but we have talked quite a lot about medication and the fact that it works. It can be quite helpful, but there can sometimes be side effects that aren't so nice. So that has been. We have, I think, over the months talked about different aspects of life with dementia. We talked quite a lot about thinking about the future for people and things that we felt was helpful for people to think about. I was just wondering, what do you think the most important thing is to get over to people who might be finding out, say, today that they have dementia? What would you say would be the most important thing?
Well, I would say it's very difficult to generalise because different people are affected in different ways, I can imagine. And it depends a lot on the support you get, with spouses and relatives and what have you. So it's rather difficult to say, oh, well, you do this and do that and all that. It's just sort of trying to take for want of a better word, a positive view rather than, oh, poor me, what's the future hold sort of thing. Be a little more, it depends what your interests are and,
I think poor me, poor me is probably one of the things that you shouldn't do, say, or view.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, I think you're affected by the reaction of other people, particularly family.
Yeah.
And of course, as you say, we benefit from great support from our wives.
Yes. I would think it's very hard for people who either live alone or their relatives, or they're far from their relatives. They don't have so many people to talk to. I suppose that's quite important to be able to talk about things, rather than to, sit there and worry.
And to bottle it up.
That's the last thing you want.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it says it's a lot about your as well as the support that you might have. It's a lot about your outlook and sharing worries and concerns.
Yeah.
Anything from your perspective,
I don't
David?
think about it. I ignore it completely.
We know. And you find that this is something very helpful.
He says it on every occasion we meet.
I need to talk about it when we come to these meetings.
We're always very surprised that you come to these meetings, given that you're...
There must be some attraction.
Yes.
I like the coffee.
You like the coffee? That's excellent. We like to think that you like the company as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you. But that was one of the things I think we covered in the content of the programme was help, things that might help you. So one of the pieces of it was keeping the one notepad, keeping it with you quite a lot, having a consistent place to keep it, wasn't it? So it's like that very practical. It's the very practical stuff sometimes that can be.
And I remember, Bright, you bought a clock, didn't you? That had the
Yes. I have found that very useful because it's an electronic clock, so it obviously doesn't only tell the time; it gives you the temperature and the day and so forth. The only thing I did find that it didn't automatically change the hour.
So you have to remember that the clocks are changing. So
I have to remember
it's not foul-proof.
That's another note for the book.
It is, that's right. We need to add that to the course, don't we? That you need to remember about the time changes. So those very practical things sound like them.
Yeah.
I never write anything down. Every night before I go to bed, when I go to bed, I think about what's happened during the day, throughout the day, and what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Yes.
But it's in my head.
Yes.
But I don't write it down.
Right.
I don't forget it.
But you've described yourself, David, as somebody who's always been very organised, haven't you? So I think you've given us quite a lot of tips and hints about particularly things like managing paperwork and how best to, because that's something we've talked about, isn't it? Is keeping on top of bills or utilities or those sorts of things. So sort of practical things that maybe sometimes, certainly as professionals, we may not always talk enough about, but really helpful ideas about
It's something that needs
managing
doing, do it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was our motto, wasn't it? Was don't think you'll remember later, do it at the moment, really.
particularly sort of bills and things. Not putting to one side and then you forget where you put it.
That's
you know.
right. So
but fortunately, nowadays it's direct debits and things like that. Saves us
Yes.
remembering.
Well, you have to put them to one side because it's something not a direct debit, but then put them in the same place as in a folder or an envelope or something, but mark on the envelope what you put inside.
Exactly.
Because we get all sorts of envelopes.
Yes, and that's the challenge, isn't it? That, it's lots of things.
That's just a little tip. If I get something that requires, a very simple thing. I had a notice from the optician reminding me that I was due for another eye test. And so I had kept that in view, all the time. And only this morning I wrote on it, optician, make appointment for January 2015, and put that with a little pile of things with that similar sort of things written on. It's just little things like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Just reminders.
Yes. But that's really interesting because we've spent a lot of time talking about those quite practical things, and within the programme that we would want to share with people with lots of ideas and hints for.
I keep a large cash book, and every item I spend, I record in it.
Oh, that's very meticulous.
So yes. So I keep on top of where I am, so I'm quite up to date.
Yes. And I guess one of the things we touched on, wasn't it, was maybe for somebody who hasn't always done that, it's trying to develop almost some good habits, because the challenge when you have dementia is you may not automatically remember afterwards. So what do you need to do to make sure that you build that in?
Write it down now.
Yes, that's right. It's dealing with things in the moment, isn't it?
The difficulty is that we're all different.
Yes.
Some people are very organised, others are very organised,
Yes.
some are hopeless.
Yes.
And you're looking at me when you say that.
No, I didn't mean that.
No.
Oh, Carol would probably agree with that comment.
But it's all very, I say, oh yes, you do this, you do that. So that's what you ought to do. But
Yes.
Well, I was an engineer, and so I had to be organised.
Yes.
Yes, that's come out in our conversations on a number of occasions. It's quite obvious that, as you say, that discipline was different from our experience.
yeah.
But I feel personally that what we've done is pulled together quite a lot of information, which is, it's not you must do this. These are some of the things that we have collectively pulled together. We think might be helpful, but it's almost like a box of sweets. Is take the things that you think are useful, and if this advice or these ideas don't work for you, then it's not a must-do list. This may be helpful. These things may. So some of your ideas, David, may be particularly helpful for one person, but for another person, they just may not be. It's providing hopefully a little bit more information and information from your perspective, though. So having lived with memory problems, these are some of the things we found that help. Really, that's I guess the intention.
One thing is that I used to always deal with financial matters. Now I've got Carol very much more involved, and I think it's important from her point of view, and it also makes that
Mine's the same.
And I think the carers have actually been having some guidance, particularly for those who have perhaps not been involved in dealing with financial matters in the past.
Yes. So there can be a bit of a handing over, and I think that is something we've touched on, isn't it? Really,
you can understand from our wife's point of view if the husbands have always done this and that. As time is going on, they're like getting older and older, and particularly if there are signs that we're not coping as much as we used to, then it's in the wife's interest,
of course it is,
to be more involved, and I think that's a wise thing for them to do it.
And I think
because it saves them having that worry. Well, what's going to happen when he's really doolally or something.
Yes, and one of the things you've all touched on, and we have within the programme, is thinking about the impact of dementia on your partners or your family, and maybe being mindful of some of that, so that it might not always be easy for that other person. And I think that's something you've been very keen to stress for somebody else, that this is important to think about. Okay. Anything else before we finish in terms of all this work and what we've done? Any final thoughts at all?
I can't really
Enjoyed
You've
it.
You've enjoyed it. It's been fun, hasn't it?
Yes.
It's been a lot of fun, and we've produced a really good piece of work as well, which is going to go forward. Entertaining, good. I think that's a great outcome, really.
And we hope it will be of benefit to people.
Yes.
And I'm sure we all like to thank you for all you've
Very
done
much
for
so,
us,
yes.
you know.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Your colleagues. of course.
Yes, and Sue, who's
Sue,
has
yes.
been involved as well, and I know she was very disappointed she couldn't come today, but it's been an absolute pleasure from my perspective. And one thing we would hope to do going forward is to properly evaluate, how does this help people, and what she saw. I'm pretty convinced that it is helpful to other people, but that will be the next step, I guess, really.